Week 6 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few kickers I looked at off the wire this week. The first guy, Nick Folk of the Tennessee Titans. So this Titan team, we know they don't score a lot of touchdowns. We know they got one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and they've been settling for field goals pretty much all season. And so far this year, Nick Folk's been solid in his first season with this Tennessee Titan team, with 4 games out of the first 5 with double-digit fantasy points. So Week 3 at Cleveland 4, Week 4 versus Cincinnati 11, and Week 5 at Indianapolis 12. So Week 6 here versus a bend but don't break type of Baltimore Raven defense that gives up the 5th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. I think Nick Folk, once again, Monday morning's ball game versus the Baltimore Ravens, is going to have a good one once again. He's going to have opportunities. And like I said, he's a veteran kicker that's been in this league 15-plus seasons. And he's just pretty much been one of the better kickers over the last few seasons. And on a team that don't score a lot of touchdowns, opportunities are there. And if you need a kicker this week, he's available right now in 72% of fantasy leagues. Next kicker is Ka'im Fairbairn of the Houston Texans. So Fairbairn, he's part of this Texan offense, which has been pretty solid the first 5 weeks of the season. And Fairbairn, the last 3 weeks, has really kicked the football well. Week 3 at Jacksonville 13, Week 4 versus Pittsburgh 12, Week 5 at Atlanta 15, so Week 6, a good matchup back home for this Houston Texan team versus New Orleans Saints that give up the 3rd most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So right now we know the same team's a bend but don't break type of defense this year, and they just shut out the New England Patriots in Week 5. I think this is going to be a close game. High teens, low 20s between these two teams. Fairbairn's been getting an opportunity. And like I said, this Texan team plays at home, and most of their games are indoors, with their home games and even some of the road games this season. So right now with another indoor game and Fairbairn kicking well with 3 games in a row with double-digit fantasy points. If you need a kicker, he's out there in 89% of fantasy leagues. Next kicker is Matt Gay of the Indianapolis Colts. And Matt Gay, he got a nice contract and one of the best kicking contracts of all time by this Colt team for a reason. And this season, it's been another solid year here for Matt Gay, where he's amongst the league leaders in the top 10 in fantasy points at the position. So the last few weeks were in Week 3 at Baltimore 24, Week 4 versus the Rams. In that one, he only had 1 point. And then Week 5 versus Tennessee, 12 fantasy points. So Week 6 in a division matchup at the Jacksonville Jaguars, a good stadium to kick. And obviously the weather pretty much always good year-round. So right now, Matt Gay, like I said, got the big contract in the offseason. Kick has been a problem for this Indianapolis Colts team, but so far this year they're playing pretty solid football, 3-2. And Matt Gay's getting the opportunity, offense that gets in the red zone as well, but doesn't finish a lot of drives. And now with Anthony Richardson most likely out and Minshew in there as the quarterback, I think we're going to see more opportunities for Matt Gay to kick the football like we did in Week 3 when Minshew started and he had 24 fantasy points. So he's an ad this week. The next kicker is Graham Gano of the New York Giants. And Graham Gano, last season, he had a lot of double-digit fantasy games, but so far this season, only 1 under his belt in 3 games of 7 or more fantasy points. So Week 5 was the best game of the year here for Graham Gano with 13 fantasy points. In Week 6, they versus a Buffalo defense that we know is nicked up. Tre'Davious White out for the season, Milano out for the season, Von Miller not 100%. But I still think they're going to have trouble scoring the football is this New York Giant team, especially if Daniel Jones is out. We're going to see what the MRI results say with his neck injury, possibly, that he could be out for a while. With Tyrod Taylor, the former Buffalo Bill, is going to be the start of them. But anyway, either way, no matter who the quarterback is, I think this Giant team stalls out a lot. Field goal opportunities are there 2 or 3 times a game. And right now, in deeper leagues, Gano's more of an edge. So right now, available 91% of fantasy leagues. And the 5th and final kicker is Blake Group of the New Orleans Saints. He's been on this waiver wire list for the last few weeks here, and he's been solid so far this season in his rookie years group. And for a reason, they traded Will Lutz to the Broncos because they knew what they had with this kid. Week 3 at the Packers 4, Week 4 versus Tampa 10, and Week 5 at the Patriots 14. So this week here, Week 6, another dome game at the Houston Texans, where I think the opportunities are going to be there here for Grubb. He's a solid kicker, like I said, so far this season. And this same team, they're an offense as well that stalls out a lot, even though we know they got a lot of talent. Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, when he's healthy, still could go out there and make plays. And Derek Carr is a middle-of-the-pack type of quarterback. So right now, while he's available in 97% of fantasy leagues, and he's got 3 games of double-digit fantasy points out of the first 5, I would give him an ad this week. So that's a few kickers I looked at in Week 6 of the fantasy football season.